The message that changed humanity's destiny arrived on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Amelia Rees, lead scientist at the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence (SETI) Institute, stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The sequence of pulses from deep space wasn't random noise. It was a pattern, deliberate, structured, and undeniably artificial. "Holy shit," she whispered, her hands shaking as she reached for her phone. "Get me the director, now." Within hours, the news spread like wildfire through the scientific community. Within days, it reached the highest levels of government. And within a week, the entire world knew, we are not alone. The message, once decrypted, was both thrilling and terrifying. It came from a planet orbiting a star some 40 light-years from Earth. The inhabitants called themselves the Novaterrans, and they were dying. "Our civilization faces extinction," the message read. "We are an all-female species, and our method of reproduction has failed. We reach out to your world, to humanity in desperate hope. Please, send us your men. Help us survive." As the implications sank in, the world erupted into chaos. Religious leaders declared it a hoax or a divine test. Conspiracy theorists had a field day, and governments around the globe scrambled to formulate a response. In New York, the United Nations convened an emergency session. Representatives from every nation gathered to debate humanity's next move. The General Assembly Hall buzzed with tension as Secretary General Adebayo took the podium. "We face a decision unlike any in human history," he began, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. "An alien civilization has asked for our help. The question before us is not just whether we can help them, but whether we should." The debate raged for days. Some argued it was humanity's moral duty to aid a dying species. Others warned the risks, biological, cultural, and political. What if it was a trap? What if Earth's men never returned? What if they brought back an alien plague? In the end, it was Dr. Rees who tipped the scales. Invited to address the General Assembly, she spoke with passionate conviction. "We stand at a crossroads," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "We can turn inward, retreat into fear and isolationism, or we can reach for the stars, extend a hand to another civilization, and take our place in the cosmos. The choice we make today will define our species for generations to come." Her words resonated with many, but it was her next statement that truly captured the world's imagination. "I propose we send a volunteer mission," she continued. "A team of Earth's best and brightest, scientists, diplomats, and yes, men willing to help the Novaterrans reproduce. But more than that, we'll send the best of humanity. Our compassion, our ingenuity, our unwavering spirit in the face of the unknown." The vote that followed was close, but in the end, the decision was made. Humanity would answer the call. As the assembly adjourned, Dr. Rees found herself surrounded by reporters. Their questions came rapid fire, but one cut through the noise. "Dr. Rees, are you volunteering for this mission?" She paused, considering. The risks were enormous, the dangers unknown. But the potential for discovery, for advancing human knowledge, and saving an entire civilization, it was irresistible. "Yes," she said finally, a smile spreading across her face. "Yes, I am." In the days that followed, the United Nations scrambled to assemble a team. They needed the best of the best: geneticists, xenobiologists, linguists, diplomats, and of course, a diverse group of male volunteers. Dr. Marcus Chen, a brilliant geneticist from Singapore, was one of the first selected. His groundbreaking work on human genomics made him an obvious choice for tackling the challenge of interspecies reproduction. Commander Yuki Tanaka, a decorated astronaut with multiple ISS missions under her belt, was tapped to lead the expedition. Her cool head and years of experience in space made her the perfect captain for this unprecedented journey. And then there was Jack O'Neill, a charming Irish diplomat with a knack for bridging cultural divides. His inclusion was as much for his peacekeeping skills as for his potential role as a genetic donor. As the team came together, the world watched with bated breath. Factories worked around the clock to build a ship capable of the interstellar journey. Scientists pored over the alien message, extracting every bit of data they could about Nova-Terran biology and their home planet. In homes and bars, on street corners, and in online forums, people debated the mission. Some hailed the volunteers as heroes, while others decried them as fools or traitors to humanity. But beneath the controversy, there was an undercurrent of excitement, of possibility. For the first time in history, humanity was reaching beyond its cradle, venturing into the cosmic unknown. The day of launch arrived with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Cape Canaveral bustled with activity as final preparations were made to the Starship Odyssey, humanity's first true interstellar vessel. Its sleek form gleamed in the Florida sunshine, a testament to human ingenuity and the collective will of a species reaching for the stars. Dr. Amelia Rees stood at the base of the launch pad, her heart racing as she took in the enormity of the moment. Around her, the rest of the crew performed last-minute checks and said their goodbyes. Some faces were etched with determination, others with barely concealed fear. All of them knew they might never see Earth again. Commander Yuki Tanaka's voice crackled over the comms. All personnel, final boarding call. T-minus 60 minutes to launch. As Amelia made her way up the gantry, she caught sight of Dr. Marcus Chen, deep in conversation with one of the engineers. His brow was furrowed in concentration, no doubt running through complex genetic scenarios in his mind. Nearby, Jack O'Neill was charm personified, easing the nerves of a younger crew member with a well-timed joke. Once aboard, the crew strapped into their acceleration couches. The ship's interior was a marvel of efficient design, every inch serving a purpose for their long journey. As the minutes ticked by, an eerie calm settled over the cabin. "This is Mission Control," a voice announced. "We are go for launch. Odyssey, you have permission for liftoff." Commander Tanaka's steady voice responded, "Roger that, Control. Initiating launch sequence." The ship came to life around them, a deep rumble building from within. Amelia closed her eyes, sending a silent prayer to whoever might be listening. For the success of their mission, for the survival of two species. With a roar that shook the very air, Odyssey lifted off. The force of acceleration pressed them into their seats as the ship climbed higher and higher, breaking free of Earth's atmosphere. Through it all, Amelia kept her eyes fixed on the viewscreen, watching as her home planet grew smaller, fading to a blue marble against the vastness of space. Once they achieved stable orbit, a cheer went up through the cabin. They had cleared the first hurdle, but the real challenges lay ahead. The journey to the Nova-Terran homeworld would take months, even with their advanced propulsion system. As the initial excitement wore off, the crew settled into their routines. Days blended into weeks as they hurtled through the void. Dr. Chen and his team worked tirelessly in the onboard lab, studying the genetic data provided by the Nova-Terrans and running simulations on potential hybridization techniques. Amelia split her time between assisting in the lab and working with Jack to develop first contact protocols. Life aboard Odyssey took on a surreal quality. The ship's artificial day-night cycle helped maintain their circadian rhythms, but the constant view of stars outside the viewports was a constant reminder of their isolation. To combat the psychological strain, Commander Tanaka instituted regular movie nights and encouraged crew bonding activities. It was during one of these movie nights, about a month into their journey, that Amelia noticed a change in the crew's dynamics. As they gathered in the common area to watch an old sci-fi classic, she saw genuine friendships forming. Dr. Chen, usually so reserved, was engaged in an animated discussion about the film's scientific inaccuracies. Jack had organized a popcorn-tossing competition, much to everyone's amusement. "Penny for your thoughts, Doctor." Commander Tanaka's voice startled Amelia from her observations. She smiled at the commander, just thinking about how far we've come, not just in distance, but as a team. Yuki nodded, her eyes scanning the room. They're a good crew. We'll need that unity in the months ahead. As if on cue, the ship's AI announced, "Attention all personnel. We are approaching the halfway point of our journey. Prepare for mid-course correction maneuvers." The announcement sobered the mood. They were venturing further from Earth than any humans in history, with no guarantee of what they find at their destination. The following days were tense as they executed the delicate maneuvers necessary to keep them on course. It was during this time that they received their first direct communication from the Novatarans since leaving Earth. The message was brief, but filled with gratitude and hope. "Brave travelers from Earth, we await your arrival with joy and anticipation. Our scientists stand ready to assist you in any way possible. May your journey be swift and safe." Reading those words aloud to the crew, Amelia felt a renewed sense of purpose. They weren't just explorers or scientists anymore. They were the embodiment of humanity's best qualities: compassion, curiosity, and the drive to help others even at great personal risk. As they pushed deeper into uncharted space, the crew faced numerous challenges. A micrometeoroid storm damaged one of their communication arrays, requiring a hasty spacewalk repair. A glitch in the life support systems led to 2 tense days of reduced oxygen levels, while Dr. Chen and the engineering team worked feverishly to fix it. Through it all, the crew's resolve never wavered. Each obstacle overcome only strengthened their determination to see the mission through. One evening, unable to sleep, Amelia found herself in the ship's small observation dome. The view was breathtaking, an ocean of stars stretching in every direction. She was so lost in thought that she didn't hear Jack approach. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" he said softly, joining her at the viewport. Amelia nodded, not trusting her voice for a moment. When she finally spoke, her words were tinged with awe. "I never imagined I'd see anything like this. We're so small in the grand scheme of things, yet here we are, on our way to save an entire civilization." Jack was quiet for a long moment before responding. "You know, back on Earth, I was always the guy with a plan, a quip, a way to smooth things over. Out here?" He gestured at the star-filled void. "I've never felt so out of my depth." "We all feel that way, Jack," Amelia assured him. "But that's what makes this mission so important. We're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, not just for humanity, but for life itself." As they stood there, contemplating the vastness of space and the weight of their mission, a brilliant light streaked across their field of view. A comet, perhaps, or some other celestial wanderer. It was a reminder of the wonders that awaited them, the discoveries yet to be made. With renewed determination, Amelia and Jack returned to their quarters. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to prove the resilience and ingenuity of the human spirit. As Odyssey carried them ever closer to their destination, the crew's thoughts turned increasingly to the alien world that awaited them and the monumental task that lay ahead. After months of interstellar travel, the starship Odyssey finally approached the Novataran homeworld. The crew gathered on the bridge, a mix of excitement and apprehension palpable in the air as the alien planet came into view. Novatera, as the Novatarans called it, was a breathtaking sight. From orbit, it appeared as a vibrant sphere of blues and greens, wreathed in wispy white clouds. Twin moons orbited the planet, their surfaces etched with mysterious patterns visible even from a distance. "It's beautiful," Dr. Amelia Rees whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Commander Yuki Tanaka nodded in agreement, but her voice was all business as she addressed the crew. "Prepare for atmospheric entry. Dr. Chen, run final checks on our biocontainment protocols. Mr. O'Neill, open a channel to the Novataran Control Center." As the ship began its descent, Jack O'Neill's diplomatic skills were put to the test. His voice was steady as he communicated with the alien controllers, coordinating their landing and initial meeting. The Odyssey touched down in a vast clearing surrounded by towering iridescent structures that seemed to grow organically from the landscape. As the dust settled, the crew caught their first glimpse of the Novatarans. Tall, graceful beings with skin that shimmered in hues of purple and blue approached the ship. Their large, almond-shaped eyes regarded the human visitors with a mix of curiosity and hope. Dr. Reeves led the way as the crew disembarked, her heart pounding with each step. A Novataran stepped forward, raising a six-fingered hand in what appeared to be a gesture of greeting. "Welcome, travelers from Earth," the alien spoke, her voice melodic and soothing. "I am Zara, First Minister of Novaterra. We cannot express our gratitude for your journey." Amelia smiled, bowing slightly. "Thank you for your welcome, First Minister Zara. I'm Dr. Amelia Reeves, lead scientist of the Earth expedition. We're honored to be here and eager to begin our work together." As introductions were made, Dr. Marcus Chen couldn't help but stare in fascination at the Novatarans. His mind was already racing with questions about their biology, the possibilities and challenges that lay ahead in their genetic research. The humans were escorted to a magnificent structure that seemed to pulse with an inner light. Inside, they found a blend of organic architecture and advanced technology unlike anything they had seen before. "This will be your home during your stay," Zara explained. "We've prepared living quarters, research facilities, and communal areas where our peoples can interact and learn from one another." Over the next few days, the human crew settled into their new surroundings. The Novatarans were gracious hosts, eager to share their knowledge and culture. In return, the humans found themselves ambassadors not just for their mission, but for all of Earth. Dr. Chen and his team wasted no time in setting up their laboratory. Working alongside Novataran scientists, they began the painstaking process of analyzing the compatibility between human and Novataran DNA. Meanwhile, Jack O'Neill found himself navigating the complexities of Novataran society. Their culture was based on a delicate balance of scientific advancement and spiritual beliefs, with a deep reverence for life in all its forms. His natural charm and genuine curiosity helped bridge many cultural gaps. Amelia split her time between the lab and diplomatic meetings, coordinating the various aspects of their mission. She couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at how smoothly the two species were beginning to work together. One evening, as the twin moons of Novaterra rose in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the landscape, Amelia found Zara standing alone on a balcony overlooking the city. "It's a beautiful world you have here," Amelia said, joining the Novataran leader. Zara turned, a sad smile on her face. "It is, and yet, without your help, it may soon be a world without us." Amelia felt a lump form in her throat. "We'll do everything in our power to prevent that, Zara. I promise." The Novataran reached out, gently taking Amelia's hand in her own. The touch was cool, almost electric. "Your coming has given us hope, Dr. Reeves. For the first time in generations, our people look to the future with optimism." As they stood there, gazing out at the alien yet somehow familiar landscape, Amelia felt the weight of their mission more keenly than ever. The fate of an entire civilization rested on their shoulders. In the days that followed, the humans and Novatarans fell into a rhythm of collaboration and cultural exchange. Dr. Chen and his team made steady progress in their genetic research, though the challenges were immense. The Novataran reproductive system was unlike anything they had encountered before, relying on a complex interplay of genetic material and environmental factors. Jack O'Neill, ever the diplomat, organized regular cultural events where the two species could interact more casually. These gatherings became a highlight for many, filled with music, art, and the sharing of stories from both worlds. Commander Tanaka, while maintaining overall mission oversight, found herself drawn into discussions about space exploration with Novataran engineers. Their propulsion technology was decades ahead of Earth's, and the potential for collaboration in this field was exciting. As weeks turned into months, the initial excitement of first contact gave way to the reality of their monumental task. The pressure to succeed was immense, and setbacks in the lab were beginning to take their toll on morale. One particularly frustrating day, after another failed attempt at creating a viable hybrid embryo, Dr. Chen stormed out of the lab in uncharacteristic frustration. Amelia found him later, sitting alone in one of the gardens that dotted the Novaterran city. "Want to talk about it?" she asked gently, sitting beside him. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. "We're missing something, Amelia. Every time we think we're close, the genetic structure breaks down. I'm starting to wonder if we're even capable of doing this." Amelia was quiet for a moment, considering her words carefully. "You know, when humans first started trying to achieve powered flight, a lot of people thought it was impossible. But we kept trying, kept innovating, and now we're sitting on an alien world light years from Earth." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll figure this out, Marcus. We have to." As they sat there, surrounded by the alien flora of Novaterra, a gentle breeze carried the sweet scent of unfamiliar blossoms. It was a reminder of how far they had come, and how much further they had yet to go. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance, and the clock was ticking. But as the humans and Novaterrans worked side by side, a bond was forming between their species, a shared determination to overcome the challenges that lay ahead, no matter the cost. As the Earth expeditions settled into their third month on Novaterra, the initial optimism began to wane. Despite tireless efforts in the lab, Dr. Chen and his team had yet to produce a viable hybrid embryo. Each failure weighed heavily on the crew, and tensions were starting to rise. One particularly frustrating afternoon, an argument broke out in the main research facility. Dr. Chen, exhausted and irritable, snapped at Lyra, one of the lead Novaterran geneticists. "If your people's genetic records were more complete, we might actually make some progress," he shouted, his usual composure cracking under the strain. Lyra's luminescent skin flickered with emotion, her voice tight as she responded. "We've provided everything we have, Dr. Chen. Perhaps if your species' genetics weren't so primitive, we have results by now." The room fell silent, the air thick with tension. It was Jack O'Neill who stepped in, his diplomatic skills put to the test. "All right, let's all take a breath," he said, placing himself between Marcus and Lyra. "We're all under enormous pressure here, but turning on each other isn't going to solve anything." Amelia, witnessing the exchange, felt a knot of worry form in her stomach. She knew that if they couldn't maintain unity between the two species, their entire mission could fall apart. Later that evening, she called a meeting of the Earth crew in their private quarters. As they gathered, the strain of their task was evident on every face. "I know we're all feeling the pressure," Amelia began, her gaze moving from one crew member to another. "But we can't lose sight of why we're here. An entire civilization is counting on us." Commander Tanaka nodded in agreement. "Dr. Rees is right. We faced challenges before, and we'll face more. But we're humanity's best hope, and the Novaterrans' only hope." The meeting seemed to reinvigorate the team, at least temporarily. But as days turned into weeks with little progress, morale continued to suffer. The Novaterrans, too, were growing restless. Whispers of doubt began to circulate among their population, and they pinned their hopes on a species that couldn't deliver. It was during this low point that an unexpected event changed everything. Jack O'Neill, in his ongoing efforts to understand Novaterran culture, had been spending time with a group of their historians. One evening, as they were discussing ancient Novaterran texts, something caught his attention. "Wait, what was that about the stellar confluence?" he asked, leaning forward with interest. The historian, an older Novaterran named Vex, blinked in surprise. "It's an old legend from before our society became fully matriarchal. It speaks of a time when our ancestors could only reproduce during specific celestial alignments." Jack's mind raced with the implications. He quickly excused himself and rushed to find Amelia and Dr. Chen. He found them in the lab, poring over yet another set of failed results. "I think I found something," he said breathlessly, explaining what he'd learned. Dr. Chen's eyes widened as he listened. "Of course," he muttered, more to himself than the others. "We've been so focused on the genetic components, we never considered environmental factors. With renewed energy, the team dove back into their research. They worked closely with Novaterran astronomers to understand the planet's celestial cycles and how they might influence biology. As they made progress, the mood on Novaterra began to shift. The tension between humans and Novaterrans eased, replaced by a cautious optimism. Dr. Chen and Lyra, having moved past that earlier argument, now worked in perfect sync, their different perspectives complementing each other. Weeks passed, and finally, after countless attempts, they achieved success. In a carefully controlled environment, mimicking the conditions of the legendary stellar confluence, they managed to create a viable hybrid embryo. The lab erupted in cheers when the results were confirmed. Dr. Chen, overcome with emotion, embraced Lyra, their earlier animosity forgotten in the joy of their shared achievement. News of the breakthrough spread quickly through the Novaterran city. That night, a spontaneous celebration erupted, with humans and Novaterrans alike joining in the festivities. Amelia found herself on a balcony overlooking the celebration, a warm feeling of accomplishment washing over her. Commander Tanaka joined her, a rare smile on her usually serious face. "We did it," Amelia said softly, still hardly believing it herself. Yuki nodded, her gaze fixed on the joyous scene below. "We did, but this is just the beginning. The real challenge lies ahead." Amelia knew she was right. Creating a single embryo was a monumental achievement, but it was far from saving an entire species. They would need to refine the process, ensure its safety, and figure out how to scale it up. As the celebration continued into the night, Amelia's mind was already racing with the next steps. They would need to establish a long-term plan, possibly involving more volunteers from Earth. The ethical implications alone were staggering. But for now, she allowed herself to savor this moment of triumph. They had overcome seemingly insurmountable odds, bridged the gap between two vastly different species, and kindled a flame of hope for the Novaterran civilization. As she looked out over the alien city, its spires glowing softly in the light of the twin moons, Amelia felt a profound sense of awe. They were writing a new chapter not just in human history, but in the history of life in the universe. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. They had proven that with determination, cooperation, and a little bit of luck, anything was possible. As the first light of Novaterra's sun began to peek over the horizon, Amelia allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. Whatever came next, they would face it together, humans and Novaterrans united in their quest for survival and understanding. The successful creation of a viable hybrid embryo marked a turning point in the mission. What followed was a period of intense activity as the joint human-Novaterran team worked to refine and replicate their success. Dr. Chen, reinvigorated by the breakthrough, led the charge in the lab. His collaboration with Lyra had deepened into a partnership of mutual respect and shared brilliance. Together, they made rapid strides in understanding the intricacies of hybrid genetics. "If we can stabilize the telomere degradation at this stage," Lyra suggested one day, her elongated fingers dancing over a holographic display, "we might be able to extend the viability window." Marcus nodded enthusiastically. "Brilliant. And if we combine that with the modified mitochondrial transfer technique," their excitement was infectious, spreading throughout the research facility. The air buzzed with a renewed sense of purpose and possibility. Meanwhile, Amelia found herself juggling multiple responsibilities. She coordinated with Commander Tanaka to establish a long-term plan for the mission, worked with Jack to navigate the complex ethical and cultural implications of their work, and spent long hours in the lab, ensuring that every aspect of their research adhered to the strictest ethical standards. As weeks passed, their efforts began to bear fruit. Not one, but several hybrid embryos were successfully created and sustained. Each tiny life represented a beacon of hope for the Novaterran species. The day finally came when they were ready to attempt the first implantation. The chosen Novaterran volunteer, a young woman named Naya, was both excited and nervous. The procedure represented not just a scientific milestone, but a deeply personal journey for her. As Naya was prepared for the procedure, Amelia found herself by the Novataran's side, offering words of encouragement. "You're making history today, Naya. Your courage is admirable." Naya's iridescent skin shimmered with emotion. "Thank you, Dr. Reeves, for everything you and your people have done for us. Whatever happens, know that you've given us hope." The implantation procedure was tense, with both human and Novataran medical teams working in perfect synchronization. Hours later, exhausted but elated, Dr. Chen emerged from the medical bay to address the anxiously waiting crowd. The procedure was a success, he announced, his voice hoarse with fatigue, but brimming with joy. Now we wait. The following weeks were a roller coaster of emotions. Everyone on Novatera, from the highest-ranking officials to ordinary citizens, seemed to hold their breath collectively. Regular medical checkups showed promising signs, but they all knew the real test would come with time. It was during this period of anxious waiting that Jack O'Neill truly shone. His natural charisma and genuine empathy helped ease tensions and keep spirits high. He organized cultural exchange events, sports tournaments, and even a talent show that saw humans and Novatarans performing side by side. Who knew Novatarans had such a knack for stand-up comedy? Jack quipped one evening after a particularly entertaining performance. These events did more than just boost morale. They fostered a deeper understanding between the two species, building bonds that went beyond the scientific mission. As Naya's pregnancy progressed, more Novataran volunteers came forward. Each successful implantation was celebrated, each setback met with determination to overcome. Then, on a day that would be forever etched in the annals of both human and Novataran history, Naya went into labor. The medical facility was a hive of activity, with teams standing by to handle any complications that might arise. Hours passed, tension mounting with each moment, and then finally, a sound that brought tears to the eyes of everyone present, the cry of a newborn. The first human Novataran hybrid had been born. As news of the successful birth spread, celebrations erupted across the planet. The streets of the Novataran city filled with joyous crowds, their bioluminescent skin creating a dazzling light show. In the days that followed, more births occurred. Each healthy child represented a miracle of science and cooperation, a living symbol of hope for the Novataran species. Amelia found herself overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they had achieved. Standing in the nursery, watching human and Novataran caretakers tend to the hybrid infants, she felt a profound sense of awe. "It's incredible, isn't it?" Jack said softly, joining her at the observation window. "A year ago, we were strangers from different worlds. Now look at us. We've literally created new life together." Amelia nodded, too choked up to speak. The sight of the tiny beings, their skin a mesmerizing blend of human and Novataran characteristics, filled her with an indescribable emotion. As the successful births continued, the focus began to shift towards the future. How would these hybrid children be raised? What kind of society would they grow up in? These questions and more occupied the minds of both humans and Novatarans. Dr. Chen and his team continued their work, monitoring the health of the hybrid infants and refining their techniques. But there was a new lightness to their efforts, the crushing pressure of impending extinction lifted from their shoulders. Commander Tanaka, ever practical, began discussions about the long-term presence of humans on Novatera. It was clear that their involvement wouldn't end with the successful births. Years of follow-up and continued cooperation lay ahead. As Amelia watched the tiny hybrid beings sleep peacefully in their cribs, she realized that their mission had evolved into something far greater than they had initially imagined. They hadn't just saved a species from extinction. They had forged a bond between two civilizations that would forever alter the course of both. The breakthrough they had achieved was more than scientific. It was a testament to the power of cooperation, compassion, and the unyielding human spirit. As Novatera's twin moons rose in the sky, casting their ethereal light over the jubilant planet, Amelia knew that they stood at the dawn of a new era, not just for humanity or the Novaterrans, but for life in the cosmos. As the cycles of Novaterra's twin suns marked the passage of time, the joint human Novaterran society flourished in ways no one could have predicted. The successful births of the hybrid children had ushered in an era of unprecedented cooperation and cultural exchange between the two species. 5 years had passed since the first hybrid child was born, and the initial group of children were now entering their early education phase. The sight of these unique beings, with their shimmering skin in various hues and eyes that held the depth of the cosmos, never ceased to amaze both humans and Novaterrans alike. Amelia Rees, now serving as the chief liaison between Earth and Novaterra, found herself in a classroom, observing a group of hybrid children engaged in a learning session. The teacher, a Novaterran named Eloin, was using a holographic display to show the children images of both Earth and Novaterra. "And can anyone tell me what this animal is called?" Eloin asked, pointing to an image of an elephant. A young hybrid girl with soft blue skin and curly brown hair raised a hand excitedly. "That's an elephant. They live on Earth and have long noses called trunks." Amelia couldn't help but smile. These children, embodying the best of both worlds, were growing up with a unique perspective that bridged two vastly different civilizations. Outside the classroom, Novaterra itself had undergone significant changes. The initial research facility had expanded into a thriving community where humans and Novaterrans lived and worked side by side. New buildings seamlessly blended Earth architecture with Novaterran organic designs, creating a cityscape unlike anything seen on either world. Dr. Marcus Chen, still at the forefront of genetic research, had established a state-of-the-art institute dedicated to studying the long-term effects of hybridization. His team, a mix of human and Novaterran scientists, worked tirelessly to ensure the health and well-being of the hybrid population. "The genetic stability in the second-generation hybrids is remarkable," he explained to Amelia during one of their regular briefings. "We're seeing a perfect balance of traits from both species, with none of the issues we initially feared." Jack O'Neill, whose diplomatic skills had proven invaluable over the years, had taken on the role of cultural attaché. He organized regular events that celebrated the rich heritage of both Earth and Novaterra, fostering a sense of shared identity among the growing hybrid community. One evening, as a festival of lights illuminated the city in a dazzling display of Earth lanterns and Novaterran bioluminescence, Jack found Amelia watching the celebrations from a balcony. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" he said, joining her. "5 years ago, who would have thought we'd be standing here, watching our two worlds come together like this?" Amelia nodded, her eyes reflecting the shimmering lights below. "It's more than we ever dared to hope for. We came here to save a species from extinction, but we've created something entirely new in the process." Their conversation was interrupted by a comm alert. Commander Tanaka's voice came through, tinged with excitement. "Dr. Rees, Mr. O'Neill, you're needed in the communications center immediately. We've just received a transmission from Earth." As they hurried to the comm center, Amelia's mind raced with possibilities. Contact with Earth had been limited due to the vast distances involved, with transmissions taking months to travel between the two worlds. In the comm center, they found Tanaka and a group of Novaterran officials gathered around a holographic display. The message from Earth began to play, and a hush fell over the room. "Greetings to our friends and colleagues on Novaterra," began the Secretary General of the United Nations. "The reports of your success have filled our world with joy and wonder. In light of the remarkable achievements of the past 5 years, the nations of Earth have come to an unanimous decision." The Secretary General paused, a smile spreading across his face. "We hereby extend an invitation to the people of Novaterra, both Novaterran and hybrid, to join us in a new era of interstellar cooperation. We propose the establishment of regular transport between our worlds and the creation of a joint governing body to oversee our shared future among the stars." The room erupted in excited chatter. The implications were staggering. not just cultural exchange, but true integration between two worlds separated by light years. As the initial excitement subsided, the real work began. Plans were drawn up for the construction of large-scale transport ships capable of making the journey between Earth and Nova Terra in a fraction of the time it had taken the original expedition. Scientists from both worlds collaborated on advancements in propulsion technology, while diplomats and legal experts worked to draft the framework for an unprecedented interstellar government. Months of preparation culminated in a historic moment, the arrival of the first official delegation from Earth. As the sleek transport ship descended through Nova Terra's atmosphere, crowds of humans, Nova Terrans, and hybrids gathered to witness the event. Amelia, Jack, and the rest of the original expedition team stood at the forefront of the welcoming committee. As the ship's doors opened and the Earth delegates emerged, there was a moment of profound silence, followed by thunderous applause. The leader of the Earth delegation, a distinguished woman with silver hair, approached Amelia with outstretched hands. "Dr. Reeves, on behalf of humanity, thank you. What you and your team have accomplished here goes beyond our wildest dreams." As the formal greetings and ceremonies unfolded, Amelia found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. They had faced countless challenges, moments of doubt, and seemingly insurmountable obstacles. But through it all, the unwavering spirit of both humans and Novatarans had prevailed. Later that evening, as the celebrations continued under the light of Nova Terra's moons, Amelia stood with her original team, Marcus, Jack, and Yuki. They watched as humans, Novatarans, and hybrids mingled freely, their laughter and conversation a testament to the bonds they had forged. "You know," Marcus said, a hint of wonder in his voice, "when we first received that message from the Novatarans, I never imagined it would lead to this. We've not just saved a species, we've changed the course of two civilizations." Jack nodded, his usual grin in place. "And to think, it all started with a distress call and a bunch of guys volunteering to help aliens reproduce. If that's not a great pickup line, I don't know what is." They all laughed, the sound of their joy joining the chorus of celebration around them. As Amelia looked up at the star-filled sky, she knew that this was just the beginning. The journey that had started with a desperate plea for help had blossomed into something far greater, a future where the best of humanity and Novataran kind would reach for the stars together. The story of Earth and Nova Terra would be told for generations to come, a testament to the power of compassion, science, and the indomitable spirit of life itself. As the first light of a new day began to break over the horizon, Amelia Reeves smiled, knowing that they had not just written a new chapter in history, they had opened an entirely new book, filled with endless possibilities and adventures yet to come.